Good morning. My name is Maureen Chung. Welcome to Daily Devotional, March the 9th. And please refer also to the devotional of February the 22nd. The big passage is actually John chapter 11, verses 1 to 44. And the title is Faith Grows One Test at a Time. The story of the death and raising of Lazarus is well known, and Lazarus fell sick in Bethany. His sisters sent word to Jesus, "Lord, the one you love is sick." And Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. Yet, when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was for 2 more days. The sisters expected that Jesus would come right away to heal their beloved brother, whom Jesus also loved. But Jesus never hurried. He was deliberate in being late, arriving after Lazarus had been entombed for 4 days. He summarized his reasoning to his disciples. This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. It pains us to see our loved ones suffer in sickness. We ask God for healing naturally, but He hasn't moved. I had this experience as I accompanied my best friend Rita during her 20-month battle with cancer. The last 2 months of palliative care was the hardest. Cecilia and I took turns caring for her all that time, with myself taking the weekday shifts and Cecilia taking the weekend shifts around the clock. For the first year or so, we kept on asking God to heal her. After some time, we realized that God was not going to heal, and so Rita actively prepared for her own death. She sorted out her earthly business with her lawyer and her banks. She recorded her own testimony and made copies of CDs. She arranged for her relatives to visit from out of town. She went to the funeral home to arrange for her own funeral. She planned her funeral service and all the people who had to take part in it. Throughout these actions and her peaceful interactions with others, she glorified God. Most notably, a self-confident and a self-reliant doctor was so impressed with her faith that he accepted Jesus as his Savior. Jesus can be glorified in miraculous healing as well as by our faithful testimonies in dying. While waiting for his plan to unfold, we learn to abide by his perfect will. Whether to live or to die, our goal is to glorify him. I can share another experience of accompanying my dear mother Rebecca during her 4-week battle with cancer. It came to us as a shock, for she had been healthy all her life except for a little high blood pressure and high cholesterol. These were well under control. As her cancer was discovered, it was already in stage 4, having metastasized. In the year before her death, she wrote her memoir as a witness of God's guidance throughout her life. She lived through the Second World War in Hong Kong, China, and India as a nurse. Afterwards, she had a very successful nursing career until she retired. My sister had arranged for a book launching and singing and signing event before Mother was diagnosed. When the printed books arrived, she was already in hospital. She signed about 250 copies on her hospital bed, but died a few days before the book launch. God's timing was interesting. He let our focus be on His glory rather than on Mother's accomplishments. She had always been a humble person. This was perhaps her preference. God does not always grant us our wish, but if God is glorified, I am satisfied. In the story of Lazarus, it turned out with a helping and with a healing and a prayer granted. In verse 20, when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now, God will give you whatever you ask. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha answered, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord, she told him. I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who was to come into the world. Martha had not imagined that it would happen this way. There was the hope of resurrection to life at the last day. But death seemed settled after 4 days. Dared she hope otherwise, even though God would give Jesus whatever he asked? The inner struggle could only be resolved by Jesus' assertion that he is the resurrection and the life. He spoke with such authority that she had to believe. Like Peter at Caesarea Philippi, Martha acknowledged that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. He is the infinite I am. She confessed her faith before Jesus raised Lazarus. Prayer granted. Faith grows one test at a time. Martha's faith rippled out to her circle of friends, including Jesus' disciples. After waiting for 2 more days since receiving the news of Lazarus' sickness, Jesus decided to go back to Bethany in Judea. But Rabbi, the disciples said, a short while ago the Jews tried to stone you, and yet you are going back there? And you can see verse 8 as the reference. Jesus gave this reason. Lazarus is dead, and for your sake I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. Now Thomas the doubter said to the other disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. In other words, Thomas believed that the Jews would stone Jesus to death, and he was pessimistic about the prospect of this trip. It was as if they were knowingly walking into a death trap. What for? For a person who was already dead? At the tomb, Jesus prayed aloud. Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me. Prayer granted. Lazarus was raised to life before the eyes of the Jews and the disciples present. They put their faith in him. For these bystanders, who shared Martha and Mary's grief, faith grew one test at a time. As Jesus' modern-day disciple, Am I afraid of the tests of faith? Even if God does not grant me my prayers, and I suffer through trials and tribulations, I still need to believe, just because I trust in His everlasting love. By His grace, my faith will grow one test at a time. He will see me through. So to the cross of Calvary and the empty tomb I go. May I say like Thomas did, let us also go, that we may die with Him, because in dying we live. Do you believe that? May God bless you all. Trust in Him, and I'll see you tomorrow. Please like and subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon to get new video updates. Thank you.